Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Get ready to be inspired, hear success stories, and learn tips and principles for bringing out the best in everyone.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. I am recording this with my producer, Doug Foresta, on January 2nd, 2020, and then we'll put it out after it's captioned and everything live. And so, Happy New Year. I'm pretty stoked that it's 2020. So,
I
Doug,
know.
welcome back to the program. And I
Thank
know
you.
we're gonna reverse it again, which I got some real nice comments from the audience when we do this, where you actually interview me. And of course, Doug is a long time host of shows. He's had his own show that's how we met 10
That's right.
years ago. 10
Yep.
years ago, Doug, and we've still never met in flesh, person to person. It's
I know.
shocking, isn't it?
I thought about that yesterday actually as one of my New Year's resolutions that we have to make it
Yes,
happen
this
this
is
year.
ridiculous.
I
I
actually thought about
walked,
that.
yeah, it's so funny how you can do that. But so today we want to talk about the, what's going to happen in 2020. What do we, if we take out our psychic abilities and our magic wands, what do we think is going to happen in 2020? And I'm really excited about 2020. I think there's a lot of very important things that happened over the last few years that are going to continue to help the community of people with disabilities, and certainly people that are aging and moving into disabilities, which is there's staggering amount of people doing that now. The numbers are higher than we, of course, we predicted this, but it's one thing to predict it and another thing to start living it, Doug, don't you think?
I completely agree with you. And first of all, I just want to say Happy New Year to you and to all our listeners. And, it's not just the new year, but a new decade. So I think a
Yes.
great time to kind of reflect on, the year ahead and thoughts about where we are and exactly where are we going. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for letting me turn the tables and interview you, Deborah. And I think that's the first thing that I want to start with is, as you think about the beginning of this year, I mean, what are some of the things that you're most excited about in the world of, in the world of human potential? I won't even say disability inclusion because
Right,
I think it's become broader than that for you. So,
right.
tell us some of the things that are on your mind as we start the new year.
Well, probably the first thing, of course, that's on my mind since it's in my face is that um, had a cybersecurity attack on my Twitter account a couple of days after Christmas, and it was interesting because Twitter sent me an email, and said, "Did you change your password?" No, I didn't change my password, so I responded pretty quickly, said I did not, and so Twitter appropriately locked the account down. They suspended the account because you assume that whoever just stole your identity on Twitter, they're probably not going to spread light and love and puppy dogs and kitty cat videos. They're probably up to no good. And so the hacker changed the password and then changed the email. Luckily, they couldn't change my cell phone. And so Twitter was able to ping my cell phone. I was able to give them the code so they knew I was the rightful owner of the account, but still it was during the holidays. And so the account was locked down and I couldn't get it restored. Twitter wouldn't respond to me for days. Once again, it was the holidays. They deserved to be on holiday, just like I was on holiday. And, but then, after 5 days, I did get an email from Twitter saying that because I sent out an inappropriate tweet, they're going to ban my account forever on Twitter. And I was like, okay, obviously I didn't send out a bad tweet. My account was hacked, just like Mariah Carey's account was hacked. She's,
That's
a lot
right.
more popular than I am. It happens. Jack, the CEO of Twitter, his account was hacked, before. It's sort of the world we live in now, Doug, right? So it's interesting because you're sometimes dealing with bots, artificial intelligence, machine learning when you're dealing with these customer service.
Right.
You're not necessarily always dealing with human beings because the volume's so so big. So I did a video and, did a little plea to everyone for Twitter to give me my account back, and actually got a real nice response on LinkedIn from a woman who's in charge of global communications for Twitter. So she's like, we'll help you figure this out. So it may, and all these people came to my rescue. My account still is not restored, but don't you love, Doug, that when something bad or aggravating happens, you have all these people that send you such love and light, and it really touches my soul. So I think the work that we're doing, despite continued disruptions,
Right.
I think it's really important. And I think that what we saw over the last couple of years was people with disabilities finding their place at the table. They were getting invited. And we still have a ton of work to do, Doug. But we see people like Greta Thunberg, who was the Person of the Year by Time Magazine, who is a young woman fighting for us all to wake up and help protect our beautiful planet. And she also has autism. And she was being really bullied about her autism and bullied about her looks and her comments. And she was really standing up to these people that were bullying her. But at the same time, it really hurts when you're cyberbullied. It really does. And I see more and more of people my age, I'm now 60 plus, that are being targeted by these cyberbullying and by these cyber scams and these digital scams. And it's, there's still a lot to do in the world and almost a lot to be afraid of. But at the same time, it feels to me, and I am very proud that we're part of this, Doug, that an awakening is happening. Awakening of what does it truly mean to be human? What is it, what do we
Right.
want to do with each other? How do we want to help each other? What is your vision of the world? What does your vision of the world look like? Does it look like a world where only certain people get to participate because, and then fill in the blanks? So I think that I'm really, really excited about 2020 and us really understanding more about what it means to be human, our true human potential, and how do we guide this artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, the robots, how do we guide this technology so that we remember what makes us uniquely and beautifully human? I think that's a real opportunity in 2020 and beyond too. Sorry for the long answer.
No, it's great. As you were saying that, I was just reflecting on, to me, this is the first year that 2000 feels like a long time ago. That it feels like, we're well into the century now.
Yeah, yeah.
We're well into the century, and we're kind of getting to see what some of the challenges, like you said, some of the great opportunities. We're seeing that this amazing technology can lift all the voices. And at the same time, of course, for the same reason, because anybody can have a voice, we're also seeing the impact that truth can also have, that, anybody means anybody. So not every,
right.
you know,
Even somebody that, is very well-known leader can
right,
go on Twitter and, tweet hundreds of times horrible,
right,
vicious, mean things.
right.
But because this person's a leader, Twitter just ignores it. And in Twitter's defense, I don't know what I would do either. I don't know what I would do about those situations either. I
Right.
think
You
they're,
can't just shut down, exactly. You can't
yeah,
just necessarily shut down an account by
right,
a leader,
right.
because
And they're battling constantly being
right,
hacked and
right.
cyberbullying and identity theft. I've had, and I guess this is also a blessing, right? Because
Yeah.
the hackers think I'm worth hacking. So they, and like you were saying before we got on air, is, no skin off their nose. They don't care. I mean, that I'm
Right,
shut down and I can't do my
right.
work. I mean, that whoever, this happened supposedly, I'm always, from somebody in Amherst, New York. And I
Oh,
happen to
wow.
know, I know where Amherst is because my husband grew up in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
So I'm like, one of my relatives. No, no, I know they. No,
Or a proxy server, and they're somewhere
I
in
know you.
Bohemia.
I imagine it's not really in Amherst, New York, but
Yeah.
it's, the hackers are getting more clever. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we can talk about the things that are
Yeah.
wrong, But I think this is an opportunity, and we've been doing this. I believe many people have been searching their souls, if they believe in their souls, searching about what do they want in their lives, what do they want the world to look like. Sometimes
Yeah.
we have to walk places and say, oh yeah, no, don't want that the world to look like that. No, I don't want people to see the United States like that. And I think we need to continue to be better about collaborating. That's one reason why I've worked so hard with leaders like Dr. Caroline Casey of the Valuable 500, and Diane Lightfoot, and Lucy Ruck, and Brendan um, from the Business Disability Forum in the United Kingdom, and you have Kate Nash, who's with Purple Light Up, and you've got all these amazing people doing really important work that I have supported, and they've supported our work too. And I'm hoping more Americans will in the United States will come into these conversations more collaboratively. I'm hoping that some of the disability organizations that have not been collaborating will come and start collaborate. So I'm hopeful that the young leaders with disabilities will really find their place at the table and have the microphones in their hands, and or their prosthesis, and they'll really be able to talk about what they think the world can look like. Because I think, I know that when I was a young woman, and I always was blessed and at the time cursed a little, in that I looked younger than I was. And so I remember not appreciating that when I was really young.
Right.
Because people would always tell me pretty much, yeah, shut up and sit down. And the young people today aren't going to do that anymore. They're really
Yeah.
standing up, and it's fascinating to watch, them say, no, the world shouldn't work that way. It should work like this. And I know sometimes my generation, the baby boomers, like to fuss with the millennials, which is interesting. We skip you over your generation, Doug. We just skip
Yeah,
you.
we're an afterthought.
Yeah.
Gen Xers.
And it's interesting because we actually are all better together. We're all
That's right.
better together, which is once again why I put some purple in my gray here, because the reality is I still have a lot to add to the conversation, but my value isn't as valuable if we don't have younger people in the conversation
Hmm.
and everybody looking at it from their lens. But what do you want the world to look like? I think that's where we are now. And I want the world to be more inclusive. I want the world to see that people with disabilities and other disenfranchised groups can add great value if we just include them. And it's not that hard to include them. Your websites, your apps, your services and solutions should be fully accessible. If you're a corporation and you're listening to this program, you know how we feel. We want to applaud the work of the corporations that are trying to make a difference. Of course, last year we spent a lot of time, I especially spent a lot of time learning about Huawei. And I was so impressed with what they're doing for Tech for Good and Tech for All. And I got engaged with Amazon, and Amazon is trying so hard to make Alexa really help us be able to age in place and stay independent. We worked with, I did, I learned more about what Citibank was doing, and what, Lilly Pharmaceutical. There's some really great corporations really trying. And then you have the Valuable 500, and you have CEOs joining the Valuable 500. Still not as many American companies as I would like to see, but there are a handful of leading US corporations that have joined the Valuable 500, committing at the World Economic Forum to include people with disabilities. But we're on a path. I hope we're on a path where we're going to really understand what it means to be fully human. So once again, we can guide the robots and the artificial intelligence to not, you know, have a dystopian future, which some people predict. So it's a very interesting time to be alive, Doug, don't you think?
Most definitely. And as you said that, I want to ask you a question. It's kind of two sides to the question, but like I want to ask you what brings you the most hope for the future, and what are you most concerned about? So I think I want to start with the hope question about, you mentioned Greta Thunberg, and obviously she's been a great inspiration, but what other things do you see out in the world that give you hope that yes, we are moving towards this greater inclusivity?
Well, I would say one thing that really gives me hope is that I don't know if this is true, but I'm starting to suspect that every generation is born a little bit wiser than the generation above them, and that there's I am a spiritual person. I know, I don't want to put my spiritual beliefs on other people, but I do believe in, universal intelligence, and I take a lot of comfort in my spiritual beliefs, and but not everybody does that. But for me, I find it interesting watching people that 12-year-olds, really making a difference in their world,
Hmm.
and people of all ages. And I'm hopeful because I see a lot of people waking up, and as we're trying to understand what does it mean to be awake.
Hmm.
I remember I've had a lot of conversations in my family about racism, and are you racist if I say, wow, that man over there looks like this actor that's a famous African American actor? Am I being racist, or am I just commenting that this man,
Looks like someone else.
and would I not be racist if I said that man that was in, a Caucasian man looked like a Caucasian actor? So I think we're all just trying to figure out how can we be fluid using a younger, a younger word, all the fluidity, all of the things that are happening. What is okay? Is it even little things like, Doug? There's a song that I always have enjoyed. It's a Christmas song, "Baby It's Cold Outside,"
Sure. Yeah.
and it was rewritten, and it was so funny. It was so funny what the guy was saying, the way it was done. If you haven't seen it, you should Google it, or look it up. But it's really funny because is he trying? In the original song, it does sound, as some people would say, a little rapey, just one drink more, oh, just, what my aunt think. Well, and so there seems to be, during the song, a lot of
Yeah.
pressure for the woman to not go out in the cold. So it's, I think we've become a lot more sensitive about what we're doing and rethinking everything that we are. And that's good and annoying and hard and powerful and
Right.
disruptive. But so it feels like a lot of people are looking, especially the young people now. It's not only the young people, but I see a lot of young people looking and saying, what do I want the world to look like? I want it to survive. So
Right.
can we please take climate action, more
Right.
seriously? I'm hoping more people are going to say, let's stop assuming because you're Jewish, Doug, that you don't matter. Or even worse, that I should kill you because you're Jewish. Or, Sarah doesn't matter because she was born with Down syndrome, so she's broken, so she should have just been aborted.
Yeah.
And let's stop assuming that we even understand what it means to be human and celebrate the diversity of being human. And then once again, as we walk this life, if you have the honor of aging, you're going to, very likely, if you're not disabled, you're going to walk with disabilities. My husband has, many of my friends have, and it's not a bad thing. It's just part of being alive. So I think what I'm hopeful about is us exploring what does it mean to be really human. And another thing I'm really excited about is the explorations we're doing with our brains. And
Hmm.
one reason is because, my husband has dementia, and it is progressing, and it's really chilling. It's chilling to
Yeah.
watch. And it must be so frustrating for him to walk it, but he's lost a lot of his communication skills. So it's interesting responding and watching that. It's one thing to talk about it clinically, something
It's
else to
another
watch
thing when it's your partner that you love, and
that I
it's the
love so much.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful about more people waking up and saying, I don't want the world to look like that. I
Yeah.
want to value everybody, no matter who they are. Let's make sure that people with disabilities are fully educated, fully employed, given all the opportunities. Let's make sure that society is not disabling us. And once again, as you said, this is not just about people with disabilities. This is about other people that have been disenfranchised all over the world.
That's right.
So it's so that I'm hopeful about.
So let me ask you the other side of that, about what gives you reason to pause, or what are some of the things that you're, as you talked about, you said the word earlier, disruption. What are some of the things that you're concerned about that you think could disrupt that progress, or that at least we need to pay attention to?
Well, and that would be artificial intelligence and all the everything that's going on with technology, all the cyberbullying, all the, you know, getting access
Yeah.
to information, or being able to say something no matter where you are, no matter if you've thought it through, no matter, and so I think this age of technology, which we've been in for a long time, but it's definitely accelerating. It is a little scary. It's
Yeah.
exciting and it's scary, and I'm writing about it right now, so I've been doing a lot of research. And I'm scared because we don't have good data sets on people with disabilities, and other minority groups, people of color, people with different religious preferences. We don't have good data. We only have good data on pretty much Caucasian males. We don't even have really good data on women. For a long time, the drugs and stuff that we were putting out, we were just testing them with men, right? So we didn't know how, and
Right.
women react differently. When a woman is having a heart attack, the signs, the symptoms
It's not the
are much
typical,
different.
down the left arm, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And so we're all the same and different, right? And there's beauty in that. And so I've done a lot of research on, what could it look like in the future with artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence, of course, right now we have narrow artificial intelligence, mainly just machine learning.
Right.
And by the way, these devices like the Alexa, I don't think the answer is for us to put legislation in place to block the artificial intelligence from learning, because other countries are letting their artificial intelligence learn, and we need to do it too in the United States and other developed worlds. Countries, we really need to make sure that the artificial intelligence learns from all of us, but at the same time, we need to try to figure out, do we have any privacy at all? Are we kidding ourselves about privacy? So I have joined after I was already involved in cybersecurity for children with Perry Aftab, who has been in this field for many years, and I'm sitting on her board of directors for her nonprofit. And of course, she stepped in when I got hacked and Twitter shut down my account. And she's the one that introduced me to this wonderful woman at Twitter that's going to help me out. But we started talking about it, and I said, Perry, one thing that I'm really scared about in a lot of ways is people that are aging into disabilities. So my generation, the baby boomers, and the generation above it, aging into disabilities and not getting the support. Whenever Sarah was born with Down syndrome, we were given a lot of support. We were giving early, we were, we had got early intervention, and we did all these different things. I know you walked that with your daughter Jo, and
Definitely.
even with your son Sam. He has an IEP, and so you know, so I got support. Did it get enough? Blah, blah, blah. I got support, with her. And, but with my husband, there's no support. And so there's many people that are aging into disabilities, and they themselves and their families don't know what to do. And the corporations are now really seeing this, and they're seeing, okay, y'all said this was happening, but now most of these corporations have 5 generations in them. And so they have their top executives are the ones that are getting impacted now. The
That's
high
right.
net worth individuals,
Yeah.
they're the ones. I have a real good friend of mine that got in a really bad car accident. Anyway, she got in a really bad accident and wound up, she's going to have to be in a wheelchair, in and out, the small distances she can walk now. But she was shocked at how inaccessible Washington, D.C. was. She has gone to over 50 condos and apartments looking for a place because she's relocating, and she cannot find an accessible a condo, townhouse, or apartment in Washington, D.C. our state's capital. I mean, the United States Capitol, it's terrible. And she said, she went to this one and the woman said, oh, it's definitely ADA accessible. And she said, there's only one step. Okay. The step
Is your
were
wheelchair going to fly up the
right.
one step? There's
One
only
step.
one step.
And she said it was a small step. And my friend said, okay, this was not a small step. This was a step. And there's no way. And she said they did have a beautiful accessible bathroom, but it was on the second floor. So she's like, I don't understand this, Deborah, because she's coming from California. And she said, you know, they've done a really good job. And of course, we can always do better. But she said, we would never have that problem. How are we having that problem in Washington, D.C.? So I think um, we have not, we're disabling people by not making sure that everybody can live where they want to live in place, age in place, be able to, I'm blessed with our house. We have a one level house. So, and it's very accessible. I do have stairs coming up to my house because we're not in a wheelchair, but it would be easy for us to make the house accessible. The entire house is accessible, but I haven't needed to do that. But I actually have, friends and colleagues that are in wheelchairs, and I would be mortified if they came and I didn't. So we have a little folding solution, but it's just a temporary solution. It works, but thinking differently. And as 70 million Americans now, all over the age of 56, move into this, I think that we're going to continue to learn how to be more accessible for everybody. This is also the 30th year of the Americans with Disabilities Act, too, Doug.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was thinking about that, and of course, we've had Tony. Oh my gosh, I
Cruella.
forget Tony. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tony Coelho on the show. He was one of the primary sponsors of that bill, and a couple of things I think that have happened since then. Hopefully, we're moving beyond. It was necessary for sure that to really hold people accountable to compliance, and that continues to be important. But I think one of the things I hear you saying is, we're moving beyond that, to from
Yes.
compliance to, and that's been your whole evolution, I think, of Ruh Global Impact has been, yes, compliance is great, but that's not going to get us to where we need to go
Right.
alone. It's not enough.
Right.
Um, and then, what you're saying about the aging population, that is going to be a huge issue. Absolutely, we're going to have to tackle it. We call the boomers the pig and the python. As they move through, and so as we move through into, and really they're there, right? I mean, boomers
Yes.
are there,
I was going to, we are 100% in the
right?
middle.
We're there now. It's not like we
Yeah.
have to,
Yeah.
and so we're going to have to solve for these issues. And yeah, it's a great opportunity in a way, because
Right.
it's an opportunity for us to use our innovation and to use our ingenuity and our creativity and our imagination, but at the same time, we're going to have to solve for these issues because they're not going to go away. And like you said, we haven't really built supports in, and you think about it. I was looking the other day at what average lifespan, and I think it was like 1895 or 1900 was like 43 years old.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we'd both be dead. There wouldn't be a
Right.
conversation.
Right. Right.
Aging wasn't,
Coming from the other side.
right. A lot of people didn't really get, the creaks and cracks that come with aging because they didn't make it, in a way we have the privilege of becoming, it sounds weird, but right, we have the privilege of aging into disability. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
a privilege in a way.
And also, I was talking to Perry about this. We don't know how to age because we have, and I would say my population, my generation gets some credit for this, in that we really created a youth culture. And by the way, it's beautiful to be young. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And I don't look at a person that's 16 and wish I was 16. I don't. I
Nor do I.
I
I don't
don't.
want to be 16 again. No.
Yeah, or 19 or 20.
No.
Would I like, some, my neck not to blah, blah, blah. But we need to rethink what it means to be an elder and to celebrate that. And I was talking to Perry about that yesterday when we were talking about my Twitter account. And I said, the problem is there are so much cyberbullying and cyber attacks directed at our seniors. It's awful. It's awful. And this is at a time when, I know that my father-in-law was attacked. My father-in-law, who loved my father-in-law, and he's passed a few years ago, and he passed at the age of 91. But he started being attacked, and my father-in-law was a very educated man. He was a medical doctor. He was amazing, and I miss him a lot. And one of the scams he got attacked with was he had won some lottery, and all he had to do was send them $1,000.
Oh, yes.
And my father-in-law would never have fallen for that before.
Yeah.
He never, but as he aged and he lost his hearing, he got to the point where he was deaf, and he became more vulnerable. And so we all tried to talk him into going into a nursing home. Well, he's a medical doctor, and he used to be a medical doctor for nursing homes. And he's like, yeah, that's not happening. And we're like, Dad, we want you. And he lived in Florida, and I live in Virginia, and the others live in New York, and a lot live in Buffalo, New York. So, but he wouldn't do it until the end. He didn't. And now, having walked the path with my mother going into a nursing home because she got so sick, and then the nursing home accidentally, almost killed her she got Legionnaire's disease, and they knew what was wrong with her. As my mother died, and they brought her back, and they knew what it was, but they didn't tell us because they didn't want to get sued. And other residents died from this. My mother didn't die right away. She moved to Virginia, blah, 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 and she died 2 years ago, but they knew what it was. And I'm not a big litigation person, Doug, but this company deserved to be sued because they knew what was wrong with my mom as she was dying in the hospital. We couldn't figure out what was wrong. They were trying all these antibiotics. If they had just whispered to us, maybe try something for Legionnaires. I mean, luckily, this one doctor who specialized in
like infectious diseases or something?
Yes, thank you. He decided to try this one antibiotic, and my mom was almost gone at that point. Her entire one lung had filled up, and the other one was 60%. She didn't have much longer. And he tried this antibiotic and turned it around, and she lived another, couple of years, but her quality of life was impacted, blah, blah, blah. So that company doesn't take care of our senior citizens anymore, but this was a really nice one, Doug. She was paying a ridiculous amount of money, $6,000 a month for it. They just, they didn't.
So we're going to have to improve. We're going to have to look at how we improve and increase the care that we get, because guess what? If we're lucky, we're all going to age. So we're all going to be there. Debra, I want to, we could go on and on, really. I want to make sure, I kind of want to give you the last word for listeners about, whatever you want to tell people as we enter this new year, this new decade. It's really kind of an amazing time.
I know, and it's very exciting. And I know that I've talked about some doom and gloom on the program, but I just want people to know I'm not a Pollyanna. I understand the huge issues, but once again, we need to really honor what it means to be fully human. And that means, hopefully you'll grow into your old age, and maybe you will, maybe you'll put some color in your hair, or maybe you'll do it earlier if you want to do it, or you just really own who we are. But we have to rethink every single stage in our life. And I'm looking forward to rethinking and helping celebrate what it means to be an elder, what it means to be old. I remember last year when I turned 60, I thought, can I still say that I'm middle-aged? Am I going to live to 120? I don't want to live to 120 if I can't do it in a way that is, that I can be healthy and happy and blah, blah, blah. But I can do that even if I have disabilities. But we've got to, it goes back to the same thing. We really have to think about what it means to be truly human and celebrate every age. Also, the corporations need to get more engaged. I really appreciate the corporations that did get engaged in these conversations last year, and then not just with Ruh Global Impact. They also, they were involved in a lot of different ways of making sure that people with disabilities were included. But we need to make sure, once again, we're looking at this from the lens of people aging into disabilities because they'd have no safety nets. So how do we make sure that we let them be who they are and we honor who they are? And they're like, yeah, there's a lot of things my husband can't do now, but my husband's still there. I have to slow down. I have to relate with him differently, but he's still there. And so I think we have to honor what it means to be human every single every single step along the path. And I think the corporations need to be more engaged in helping. Once again, that's why I celebrate Huawei. Does Huawei's 5G better than the US companies? I don't know. And I don't even care. Sorry, guys, I don't care. What I care about is one of the largest telecommunications company in the world, are they doing things that support people with disabilities and people that are aging into disabilities and other disenfranchised groups like refugees? What are you doing with your tech for all, your tech for good? Digital inclusion for all. We are in a technology age. You can't leave people out because they're not going to get the same education, the same employment, blah, blah, blah. So I think, corporations like the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, all of these different corporations, they need to do more and they need to tell us what they're doing. And I applaud the corporations that are really being leaders. But we, as the community of people with disabilities and those of us that are aging and care about, our parents getting Alzheimer's and dementia and all these other things, we need to hold these corporations accountable and reward them when they include people, when they're doing good stuff, when they're taking care. Another thing about Huawei that I love is they have this wonderful program that we talked about, of this rainforest thing where they're listening and they're trying to help them with illegal logging and stuff like that. And Topper's going to be on the program in the future. But corporations don't just have to support people with disabilities to be considered a good corporation. I don't care what you do. There's so many causes. Take up breast cancer, take up the climate. In the first place, you should be helping with climate change, no matter who you are, climate action, no matter what you're doing. But also, let's really celebrate what it means to be human. And another thing that I worry about, Doug, is I worry that with the artificial intelligence and what's coming, the gap between the haves and the have-nots is going to widen. And as we've said before, 85 families in the world control more wealth than the other 7+ billion people.
That's really staggering. Yeah, it's really
staggering. And I think with AI, if you're not careful, even with the universal basic income and giving people extra money if they're doing social good, which I love, I worry about the widening of the gap, but I also don't know exactly what to do other than what we're doing. So we need to have these very serious conversations, but I hope corporations that are listening will come to Ruh Global and let us help you come up with a strategy. Let us help you tell the stories about what you're doing right. Let us give you ideas of what else you could do. Let us help you include you in the conversations that are happening with the valuable 500s of the world, the BDFs, the disability ends, the National Organization on Disabilities, the groups that are heavily AARP, the ones that are trying to make a difference. There's so many trying to make a difference, but it is time for corporations to really be visible in these conversations about making the world a better place. And I think that's one thing that I'm hopeful for, and really excited about some of the brands that we are starting to work with now in 2020. So I'm excited, but there's a lot of work to do, but maybe we can just do it joyfully, right, Doug?
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I want to make sure, Debra, so if people do want to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there's so many good ways to reach out right now, not on Twitter.
Right.
You can go to Ruh Global on Twitter, RUH Global, but DEBRARUH is down right now. But I mean, you can go, I'm on all of the social medias at Debra Ruh, Debraruh, but our website is www.ruhglobal.com. And I'm on Skype as Debra Ruh. I'm on WhatsApp. I'm, very easy to reach, but we really would like to take on a couple more, only a couple more, because we recently took on a couple of really big clients. And so we would love to take on a couple more big clients to really help you navigate these waters, because one way that you can get engaged making the world a better place and caring about the planet is by caring about the people on the planet, which is caring about people with disabilities and people that are aging into disabilities. So there's a lot of different ways, and and I'm really thankful for the work we do with Human Potential at Work, and with you, Doug, supporting
Thank
that
you.
work too. So
Well, thank you so much, Deborah. Yeah, this has been it's amazing. Like I said, it's always exciting, that beginning of the year. And this is our first episode of 2020 of the new decade.
yes.
It's hard to believe. It really is. But thank you so much. I want to wish you a happy new year. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to continue to work with you. And yeah, just thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us.
Thank you, Doug. And thank you to the audience. And thank you. We are looking for sponsors for the program. So if you're a corporation, we hadn't taken sponsors on, but we need to take sponsors on to keep this programming in the air. So if you would like to talk to us about being one of our sponsors, please contact me. And once again, www.ruhglobal.com. But we really appreciate everybody that's listening and helping us spread the word, and everything that everybody else is doing to make the world a better place too. And thank you, Doug. And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.